I walked into my bank last Thursday to deposit a check, and the teller looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. She leaned forward and whispered, "Mrs. Dath. Henderson, can you please come with me to the manager's office? There's something urgent we need to discuss." 5 minutes later, I found out that my daughter Lisa had tried to withdraw $47,000 from my savings account that morning using a power of attorney document I'd never signed. I'm Charlotte, I'm 30 years old, and I just discovered that my sister has been systematically draining our 71-year-old mother's bank accounts for the past 8 months. I'm sitting in my mother's living room right now, surrounded by boxes of financial documents, trying to piece together how my own sister, someone I trusted, someone Mom trusted completely, managed to steal over $120,000 without anyone noticing until it was almost too late. Hey everyone, it's Charlotte. I need to tell this story because what happened to my mother is happening right now to elderly people in every community across this country. This isn't just about money. It's about trust, family betrayal, and how financial institutions can either enable or prevent elder abuse. Let me start from the beginning, because the warning signs were there for months, and none of us saw them until my mother walked into that bank. My mother's name is Patricia Henderson. She's 71 years old, a retired elementary school teacher, and one of the sharpest, most financially savvy people I know. She taught second grade for 38 years, never made a huge salary, but she saved diligently her entire life. She maxed out her teacher's pension contributions, put money aside in a separate savings account every month, and invested conservatively in CDs and bonds. When she retired 5 years ago, she had about $340,000 in savings and investments, plus her pension of $3,200 a month and Social Security. Not wealthy by any means, but very comfortable for a single woman living in a paid-off house. My father passed away 12 years ago from cancer. It was devastating for all of us, but Mom eventually rebuilt her life. She traveled, volunteered at the library, took art classes, and stayed active with her church and friend groups. She's healthy, independent, and mentally sharp. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My sister Lisa is 38, my brother Tom is 35, and I'm 30. We all grew up in the same small town where Mom still lives, but Tom and I moved away for work. Tom is in Denver, and I'm about 2 hours away in the city. Lisa is the only one who stayed local. She lives about 15 minutes from Mom. Lisa has always been complicated. She's had a series of failed businesses, bad relationships, and financial problems. She's filed for bankruptcy twice, had her car repossessed, and has terrible credit. She's been evicted from apartments, borrowed money from family members that she's never paid back. But she's also charismatic and persuasive. She can talk her way into or out of almost anything. And Mom has always had a soft spot for her because Lisa has had such a hard life. Or at least, that's how Lisa presents it. About 2 years ago, Lisa went through a particularly bad divorce. Her husband left her with significant debt, and she lost her job around the same time. She moved in with Mom temporarily while she got back on her feet. That temporary arrangement became permanent. Lisa is still living with Mom 2 years later. At first, I thought it was nice that Lisa was there. Mom had company and Lisa could help with things around the house. Tom and I both live far enough away that we can't check on Mom regularly, so having Lisa there seemed like a good situation. But over the past year, I started noticing changes. When I'd call Mom, Lisa would often answer her phone. She'd say, "Oh, Mom's resting," or "Mom's busy right now. I'll have her call you back." Sometimes Mom would call back, sometimes she wouldn't. When I'd visit, Lisa was always there, hovering, inserting herself into conversations, speaking for Mom even when Mom was perfectly capable of speaking for herself. I mentioned this to Tom, and he said he'd noticed the same thing. But neither of us thought much of it at the time. We just figured Lisa was being overprotective. About 10 months ago, I was visiting Mom and mentioned that I was worried about her finances, not because she was having problems, but just because I wanted to make sure she had a plan for long-term care if she ever needed it. Mom said, "Oh, Lisa's been helping me with all that. She's been such a lifesaver. I don't know what I'd do without her." I asked what kind of help Lisa was providing, and Mom said Lisa had been paying her bills online, balancing her checkbook, and helping her organize her financial documents. I felt a small flutter of concern. Lisa, who had filed for bankruptcy twice and couldn't manage her own finances, was managing Mom's money, but Mom seemed happy with the arrangement, and I didn't want to overstep, so I let it go. That was my first mistake. Over the following months, I noticed more red flags, but I rationalized each one. When I asked Mom how her savings were doing, Oh, I think they're fine. Lisa keeps track of all that. Huh? When I suggested Mom and I sit down and review her finances together, Lisa would interrupt and say, I've got everything under control. Don't worry about it. When Mom mentioned she couldn't afford to go on a trip with her church group because money was a little tight, I was surprised. Mom always had money set aside for things like that. But she said, oh, I had some unexpected expenses. Lisa says I need to be more careful with my spending. I should have investigated then. I should have insisted on seeing Mom's bank statements, but I was busy with my own life, my own job, and I trusted that Lisa, despite her flaws, wouldn't hurt our mother. That was my second mistake. About 6 months ago, Tom called me concerned. He said he'd been visiting Mom and noticed that some of her jewelry was missing, including our grandmother's diamond ring that Mom always wore. When Tom asked about it, Mom said she'd put it somewhere safe and couldn't remember where. But Lisa jumped in and said, Mom's been getting forgetful. She probably misplaced it. Tom told me he didn't believe that. Mom wasn't forgetful, and she'd never misplaced something as important as Grandma's ring. I called Mom directly and asked her about the ring. She sounded confused and said, I'm not sure where it is. Lisa says I must have misplaced it, but I can't imagine I would do that. I asked Lisa about it directly and she got defensive. She said, why are you accusing me of something? Mom lost the ring. End of story. Maybe you should worry more about Mom's memory problems instead of harassing me. Memory problems? Mom didn't have memory problems, but Lisa had planted the seed. Over the next few months, Lisa started making comments to Tom and me about Mom slipping and not being as sharp as she used to be. Lisa would tell us stories about Mom forgetting to pay bills, getting confused about appointments, or leaving the stove on. But when Tom or I were with Mom, we never saw any evidence of cognitive decline. I started to suspect that Lisa was gaslighting us, and possibly gaslighting Mom too. 4 months ago, I was visiting Mom when a credit card bill came in the mail. Mom opened it and looked confused. She said, I don't remember charging this much. Look at all these purchases. I looked at the bill, over $8,000 in charges for the month. Restaurants, clothing stores, online shopping, even a jewelry store. I said, Mom, did you make all these purchases? Mom looked upset. She said, I don't think so. I don't remember buying most of this. Lisa, who was in the room, immediately said, Mom, we talked about this. You've been making a lot of online purchases and not remembering them. This is what I've been worried about. Your memory is getting worse. Mom looked embarrassed and uncertain. She said quietly, I suppose I must have. I'm so sorry. I'll be more careful. But I noticed something. Several of the purchases on the credit card were from stores in our city, 2 hours away from where Mom lives. There was no way Mom had made those purchases unless she'd driven to my city without telling me, which seemed unlikely. I pulled Lisa aside and said, Did you use Mom's credit card? Lisa looked offended. She said, I used it a few times for things Mom asked me to buy for her. What's the big deal? She gave me permission. I said, $8,000 worth of things? Lisa said, I don't owe you an explanation. This is between me and Mom. If you have a problem with how I'm helping her, maybe you should be around more often instead of criticizing from a distance. I backed off because I didn't want to cause family conflict, but I made a mental note to watch Lisa more carefully. That was 3 months ago. If I'd acted then, if I'd investigated, contacted the bank, done something, maybe I could have stopped what happened next. 2 months ago, Mom mentioned offhandedly that she'd had to dip into her savings to pay some bills. I was surprised because Mom's pension and Social Security should have been more than enough to cover her expenses. I asked her what bills she was talking about, and she said, oh, property taxes were due, and there were some repairs on the house. Lisa took care of all of it for me. I asked how much she'd withdrawn from savings, and Mom said she wasn't sure. Lisa had handled it all. I called Lisa and asked directly how much had been taken from Mom's savings. Lisa said maybe $10,000 or $15,000. She'd have to check the exact amount. $10,000 to $15,000 for property taxes and repairs? That seemed excessive, but again, I didn't push it. I told myself that maybe there had been a major repair I didn't know about. Last month, I got a call from Tom. He sounded worried. He said, I was helping Mom look for some documents and I found a power of attorney form in her desk. Did you know about this? I said no. Tom said the power of attorney had been notarized 6 months earlier and gave Lisa full authority to handle all of Mom's financial and legal affairs. I immediately called Mom and asked her about it. She said, oh yes, Lisa said it would be helpful to have that in case I ever needed her to handle things for me. She said it was just a safety measure. I said, Mom, did you read the document before you signed it? There was a pause. Then Mom said quietly, Lisa explained it to me. I trusted her. My heart sank. A power of attorney gives someone enormous control. If Lisa had that document, she could access Mom's accounts, sell Mom's property, make financial decisions on Mom's behalf, all without needing Mom's permission. I said, Mom, I need you to call your bank tomorrow and find out exactly what accounts Lisa has access to and what transactions have been made. Mom said, Charlotte, I don't want to cause problems. Lisa has been so helpful. I don't want her to think I don't trust her. I said, Mom, this isn't about hurting Lisa's feelings. This is about protecting your money. Please, just call the bank. Mom reluctantly agreed, but the next day when I followed up, Mom said she hadn't called. Lisa had convinced her it wasn't necessary, that I was being paranoid and controlling. I was furious, but I felt helpless. I couldn't force Mom to check her own accounts if she didn't want to. Then, last Thursday, everything changed. Mom went to the bank to deposit a $50 check from her church. They'd paid her for helping with a bake sale. It was a routine transaction. She'd been going to the same bank for 35 years and knew all the tellers. But when she walked up to the window, the teller, a woman named Susan, who'd worked there for years, looked at Mom with this strange expression. According to Mom, Susan seemed shocked to see her. Susan said, Mrs. Henderson, I'm so glad you're here. Can you please come with me to the manager's office? There's something urgent we need to discuss. Mom was confused but followed Susan to the office. The bank manager, a man named Richard, was there waiting. Richard said, Mrs. Henderson, I'm glad you're here. We have a situation we need to discuss with you. This morning, a woman came into the bank with a power of attorney document bearing your signature. She attempted to withdraw $47,000 from your savings account. Mom said, A woman? What woman? Richard said gently. According to her ID, it was your daughter, Lisa Henderson. Mom couldn't speak. She just stared at him. Richard continued. The teller who helped her, it was Susan, noticed that the account had already had several large withdrawals over the past few months. She thought it was unusual that someone with power of attorney would be withdrawing such a large amount, especially since the account had already been significantly depleted. So she came to me, and I told her to delay the transaction while I tried to contact you. Richard pulled up Mom's account on his computer. Henderson, I need to ask you, are you aware that your savings account balance has gone from $340,000 8 months ago to $47,000 today? Mom's face went white. She said, What? That's not possible. Richard turned to the computer screen toward her. There it was. 8 months of withdrawals. $10,000 here, $15,000 there, $25K, $8,000, $30,000. Over and over. Every withdrawal had been made by Lisa using the power of attorney. $293,000 had been taken from Mom's account in just 8 months. Mom started crying right there in the bank. She kept saying, I don't understand. Why would Lisa do this? Richard asked. Did you authorize these withdrawals? Mom said no. She had no idea the money was being taken. Richard said, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Henderson. This appears to be a case of financial exploitation. We should have caught this sooner, but the power of attorney document seemed legitimate, and we had no reason to question it. The bank immediately froze Mom's accounts and told her they'd be filing a suspicious activity report. They also told her she needed to contact the police and an attorney immediately. Mom called me from the bank, sobbing. She could barely get the words out. She said, Charlotte, I need you to come here. Something terrible. I left work immediately and drove the 2 hours to her town. When I got to the bank, Mom was still in the manager's office, looking devastated. Richard showed me the account history. I felt sick looking at it. Nearly $300,000 gone in 8 months. I asked Richard, where did the money go? Can you track where it was transferred? He said the withdrawals had been made as cashier's checks, which Lisa had then deposited into various accounts. Some in her name, some in business names that appeared to be shell companies Lisa had set up. Richard also showed me something else, Mom's credit card statements. Lisa had been using Mom's credit cards extensively. The $8,000 bill I'd seen 4 months ago? That was nothing. Over the past 8 months, Lisa had charged over $65,000 to Mom's credit cards, restaurants, shopping, car payments, rent on an apartment, even though she was supposedly living with mom, luxury items, vacations, electronics. Lisa had been living a lavish lifestyle on mom's money, and mom had no idea because Lisa had been intercepting the credit card statements and paying the minimum balance from mom's accounts. The total amount Lisa had stolen was approximately $358,000, $293,000 from savings, and $65,000 in credit card charges. Mom's life savings was gone, wiped out in 8 months by her own daughter. We filed a police report that day. The detective who took the report said this was one of the worst cases of elder financial abuse he'd seen. And he'd seen a lot. I also called an elder law attorney who agreed to meet with us immediately. The attorney reviewed all the documents, the power of attorney, the bank statements, the credit card bills. She said, "This is clear financial exploitation. The power of attorney gives Lisa authority to manage your mother's finances, but it doesn't give her authority to steal from your mother for her own benefit. What she did is illegal." The attorney explained that we needed to immediately revoke Lisa's power of attorney, report her to Adult Protective Services, and prepare for both criminal and civil proceedings. We also needed to figure out if any of the money could be recovered. The attorney said that would depend on whether Lisa still had assets. If she'd already spent everything, there might not be anything to recover. After we left the attorney's office, I drove Mom back to her house. We didn't know if Lisa would be there, and we didn't know what we'd say if she was. But Lisa wasn't home. The house was empty. Mom and I sat in the kitchen, and I asked her to tell me everything. When had she signed the power of attorney? What had Lisa told her? Had there been any other suspicious incidents? Mom explained that Lisa had brought the power of attorney document to her about 8 months ago. Lisa had said it was just a precaution that if anything ever happened to Mom, Lisa would be able to handle her affairs without having to go to court. Lisa had made it seem routine and sensible. She'd even had a notary come to the house to witness the signature. Mom had signed it without really reading it because she trusted Lisa completely. Since then, Lisa had gradually taken over more and more of Mom's finances. She'd convinced Mom to let her have Mom's ATM card just in case. She'd started opening Mom's mail, she'd set up online banking access to all of Mom's accounts. And slowly, methodically, she'd been draining them. Mom also told me about other things that were now making sense. Jewelry that had disappeared, including Grandma's ring. Lisa had probably sold it. Furniture and antiques that Lisa said she'd put in storage for safekeeping. They were probably sold too. Mom said, "I feel so stupid. How did I not see what was happening?" I told her this wasn't her fault. Lisa had been deliberately deceiving her, manipulating her, and taking advantage of her trust. This was elder abuse, and it was entirely Lisa's fault, not Mom's. Around 8 p.m., Lisa came home. She walked in cheerfully. She said, "Hey, Charlotte, I didn't know you were visiting. What's going on?" I looked at her and said, "We need to talk." Lisa must have seen something in my expression because her smile faded. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Mom went to the bank today." Lisa's face went pale. She said, "Oh." I said, "The bank called the police because you tried to withdraw $47,000 this morning. They also showed us the account history. We know you've stolen almost $300,000 from Mom over the past 8 months. Lisa's expression changed. The color came back to her face and she said, "Stolen? I didn't steal anything. I have power of attorney. I was managing Mom's money for her." I said, "Managing her money? You drained her life savings. You charged $65,000 to her credit cards. You took everything she worked 38 years to save." Lisa said, "Mom gave me permission. She signed the power of attorney. Everything I did was legal." I said, "Power of attorney doesn't give you permission to steal. You're supposed to act in Mom's best interest, not your own." Lisa turned to Mom and said, "Mom, tell her I was helping you." Mom looked at Lisa with tears running down her face. She said, "How could you do this to me, Lisa? I trusted you. I gave you everything you asked for, and you stole from me." Lisa's expression hardened. She said, "You have plenty of money. You were just sitting on it, doing nothing with it. I needed it more than you did." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She actually thought she was entitled to Mom's money because Mom wasn't using it. I said, "Lisa, the police are investigating. You're going to be charged with elder abuse and theft. You need to hire a lawyer." Lisa laughed bitterly. She said, "Good luck proving anything. I have power of attorney. Everything I did was authorized. I said, you forged documents to get that power of attorney. You manipulated Mom into signing it. And you used it to commit fraud. Lisa said, I didn't forge anything. Mom signed it willingly. I said, because you lied to her about what it was for. Lisa grabbed her purse and headed for the door. She turned back and said, you know what? I'm done with this family. You all act like I'm some kind of criminal when all I've done is take care of Mom while you two live your comfortable lives hours away. I deserve that money more than anyone. Mom owes me for everything I've done for her. And then she left. That was 6 days ago. Lisa hasn't been back to the house. She's not answering her phone. We don't know where she's staying. The police have issued a warrant for her arrest on charges of theft, fraud, and financial exploitation of an elderly person. The detective says once they locate her, she'll be arrested. The bank has frozen all of Mom's accounts and is cooperating with the investigation. They've also admitted they should have caught the unusual activity sooner and are reviewing their policies. Mom has revoked the power of attorney, changed all her passwords, and I'm now managing her finances with her permission. But the damage is done. Mom's savings are gone. The $47,000 that's left in her account is all she has. We're working with the attorney to try to recover some of the money. We filed a civil suit against Lisa and are trying to identify what assets she has. The attorney has found that Lisa bought a new car, put a down payment on a condo, and purchased a lot of luxury items. But she's also still in debt and has very little in terms of recoverable assets. Even if we win the civil case, we might never recover most of the money. Mom is devastated. Not just about the money, but about the betrayal. Her own daughter, someone she loved and trusted, had been systematically robbing her for months. Mom keeps saying, how did I not see it? How was I so blind? I keep telling her that Lisa is a skilled manipulator who took advantage of her trust. This isn't Mom's fault. But Mom feels foolish and ashamed. She's told me not to tell her church friends or her neighbors what happened because she's embarrassed. I'm trying to convince her that she has nothing to be embarrassed about. She's a victim. And elder financial abuse is far more common than most people realize. Tom flew in yesterday. He's furious with Lisa and heartbroken for Mom. He's also feeling guilty, as am I, for not paying closer attention. The three of us spent yesterday going through all of Mom's financial records, trying to piece together exactly what Lisa did and when. We found more evidence of theft, forged checks, unauthorized account transfers, even evidence that Lisa had tried to refinance Mom's house. Thankfully, that fell through because Mom's signature was required in person. The scope of Lisa's deception is staggering. She'd been planning this for months, possibly years. The power of attorney was just the final piece that gave her complete access. Mom is now facing some hard realities. Her savings are gone. She has her pension and Social Security, which total about $5,000 a month, enough to live on, but not enough to rebuild what she lost. She can't afford the vacation she'd planned. She can't help her grandchildren with college expenses like she'd wanted to. She can't make the home repairs and upgrades she'd been planning. At 71 years old, there's no way for her to recover $300,000. That money is gone forever unless we somehow manage to recover it from Lisa, which seems increasingly unlikely. Mom is also facing the reality that her daughter is probably going to jail. If Lisa is convicted of elder abuse and grand theft, she could face 510 years in prison. And Mom, despite everything, still loves Lisa. She's angry and hurt, but she's also heartbroken that her daughter's life is about to be destroyed. I have no sympathy for Lisa. What she did was monstrous. She preyed on her own mother's trust, manipulated her, gaslit her, and stole her life savings. But I understand Mom's conflicted feelings. Lisa is still her child. The bank teller, Susan, probably saved Mom from losing everything. If Susan hadn't questioned that $47,000 withdrawal, if she hadn't gone to the manager, Lisa would have taken the last of Mom's money, and Mom would have been left with nothing. I went to the bank yesterday to thank Susan personally. She said, I'm just glad I trusted my instincts. Something felt off about that transaction. I've seen Mrs. Henderson come in for years, and she's always so independent and knowledgeable about her accounts. It didn't make sense that someone else would be making such a large withdrawal without her being there. Susan said the bank is now implementing new protocols for power of attorney transactions, especially when elderly account holders are involved. They're going to require more documentation and verification before allowing large withdrawals. I wish those protocols had been in place 8 months ago. But at least they might prevent this from happening to someone else. I'm Charlotte. I'm 30 years old. And last Thursday, I found out that my sister had stolen nearly $360,000 from our 71-year-old mother by manipulating her into signing a power of attorney and then systematically draining her accounts. We're now in the middle of a criminal investigation, civil litigation, and trying to help Mom rebuild her life and her sense of security. If you have elderly parents or relatives, please pay attention to their finances. Don't assume that just because someone is family, they have your loved one's best interests at heart. Elder financial abuse is a growing epidemic. It's estimated that elderly Americans lose $2.9 billion annually to financial exploitation, and 90% of the abusers are family members or trusted caregivers. My mother lost her life savings to her own daughter, but she's one of the lucky ones. We caught it before absolutely everything was gone, and the criminal system is taking it seriously. Many victims never report it because they're embarrassed, or they don't want to get their family member in trouble, or they don't even realize they've been victimized until it's too late. Don't let this happen to your family. Pay attention, ask questions, and protect the elderly people in your life from those who would exploit them, even if the exploiter is someone you never thought would do such a thing. Because my sister seemed like a lot of things, but I never thought she was a thief. I never thought she'd steal from her own mother. And now, Mom's life savings is gone, her trust is shattered, and our family is destroyed. All because we didn't see the warning signs until it was too late.